please welcome Jeanette Brokman to the microphone.
Picking up on what David said, I thought I'd show you first, to start off with, the future of our city. Co-convener of VPN is going to help you. There it is out there. This project is actually one of the projects that defined in the city as one of the leading projects, along with Central Park. This particular project, if you have a look at the space between the buildings, is tiny. If you think back that the actual site was bought after the war by the Harness Racing Club for $1. We don't know what it was sold for, but you can see the result. Similarly, the other project that around town that's flaunted as the great project is not Newtown, but is Central Park. Central Park has 1,000 people per hectare. And to offset that, it has green space that actually can't grow grass, where they've had to actually replace the grass with artificial grass. And that's the project that's lauded around the world as the future of Sydney. So it's pretty scary. So what's the future of Sydney? The future of Sydney within the next 10 years is 1 million people. 1 million people at a population growth of 1.6%. That's on par with what we regard as growing cities in the, in Africa and whatever. It's not on par with what's happening in New York. It's not on par with what's happening in London. London and New York will have exactly the same population growth projected as we do. And you know that they have much, much higher population bases. So what we're doing in Sydney is we're relying on a huge population growth to actually keep our city going. We don't have mining. Instead, today we have property boom. Property boom means that if there's a hiccup, we're pretty much doomed. But what you're going to do is also, within the confines of Sydney, is that you're actually introducing very high density, like Central Park, which may not be in every particular suburb, but this will be. So all along your train routes and all along your key areas, you're going to have transit-orientated development. What that actually means, and you'll hear about walkable cities, you'll hear about density done well, but ultimately what you're doing is you're increasing your land values. And so Sydney, as the most unaffordable city at this point in time in the world in terms of its median cost of housing, will increase. Because when you have high urbanisation and high density, even McKinsey say that you're doomed in terms of your debt leverage and also in terms of your affordable housing. So that's the future of Sydney that we're planning at this point in time. And to roll that future out, we've got the Greater Sydney Commission whose mandate is set by the Minister, and that is to deliver 6 district plans by January next year. The Greater Sydney Commission, in response to that, are going to deliver them ahead of schedule by November, and then they're going to let 4 months pass for you to digest those plans over Christmas and New Year, and then come back and change them if they have to. But the point of the exercise is that there's a plan that's called a growing, can't even remember the name of it. I've got a total blank now, David, you might have to help me.
Growing Sydney.
Sorry, I've just forgotten. I shouldn't have drunk before I got up here. A plan to grow Sydney. And within that context, it's a plan for 2031 where you'll have 1.6 million people. And to roll that out, the plan is about how many jobs and how many dwellings you create. And if I remember correctly, it's about 650,000 dwellings that you need. And that's your plan, that's your strategic plan for Sydney. So the Greater Sydney Commission's job is now to come in and deliver regional plans, which are called district plans. So in every area, you've got targets that are set, and those targets will be the targets that the plans and the architects and everybody's working to. So if you feel that you're going to have the same suburb that you had yesterday, that's gone. You might be able to negotiate a better outcome for your suburb if you're going to be far away from public transport. Anybody living over 2 kilometres, I would suggest is okay. But if you're living within the kilometre, at the moment it's 800 metres, but if you're living within the kilometre, you'll experience substantial change. And what's going to happen will vary suburb by suburb. At the moment, for the people down from Sydenham to Banksia, a place like Bankstown, a place like Hurlston Park, it's a low-rise, one-storey suburb. Beautiful little homes that came through for the interwar period. Those homes are going to turn into 8 and 9-storey blocks. On the main road is proposed where they say plus 9 stories, but what we're actually seeing delivered is 15 and 16 stories. There is no open space, there is little open space. And it's a major change. And the reason that's happening is because they want to deliver these housing targets. The housing targets support the economy, it's picking up from the mining economy. You need the property economy to keep going, otherwise it falls apart. Yet this concept of GDP is even argued by the IMF. It doesn't work. We saw in The Guardian this week an article that said neoliberalism is going out the door. Yet our government is basing its planning system on economic growth. It says it's going to keep ESD. But the problem is that every major project that comes up doesn't consider that. Instead, it looks at the economic outcome. Whether you go to Oberon or whether you go to Gloucestershire, it is about the economic outcome. Whether you look at the light rail project, it's a PPP, it's a public-private partnership. It's set, it's announced, you can't appeal for any merit reasons. When you see that the figures don't stack up, then you've actually got to, you want to say something, you can't. When you see the Anzac trees come down, the same with WestConnex. You've actually got a system that is taking away our governance. And the reason it's taking away our, the public input is because we've got whether it's one party or the other, we've got a system that's based on the economic outcomes, and also a system that's based on roll the project out and we'll deal with it later. In my mind, politicians and governance should be about being at the front end of the system, not at the lag heart at the end of the system. And what we're now seeing is that more and more the results in New South Wales are based on economic outcomes, as opposed to even looking at things like the IMF, where they're saying you cannot sustain growth based on your traditional formulas of GDP. And so there's a fundamental dichotomy at the moment in terms of our planning outcomes and what we're actually delivering. If you just go back to, remember in 2011, when the former Premier, before the Grange controversy, his whole mandate or whole promise to come into power was based on returning planning to communities. But instead today in 2016, this year alone, we have delivery of district plans by the GSC. And if you don't like those plans, the GSC actually has the power to step in and override council decisions. So the mandate the GSC has is very, very big. You also have biodiversity legislation that will increase land clearing, not reduce it, yet it's actually called Biodiversity Reforms. You have Crown land reforms that will see many parcels, or most parcels of Crown land, return to councils, and a lot of those parcels will become operational land. And in turn, operational land has the beauty of sold off. I think David this week at another forum mentioned a really interesting point, where I think it was in Wyong that the local council bureaucrat was looking at some parcels of public space, and in public parliamentary inquiry said, well, we have to look at it from a value add. We have to look at the economic outcome. It's all about the economic outcome. And if we can get a better return of selling this local land, we will do that. And how the communities are going to compete against that, I don't know. We're also looking within this period as strata reforms, where those beautiful walk-up family blocks in many, many suburbs like Randwick, and particularly in North Shore, will now become a developer's paradise. Because it won't be the development that occurs out west, it will be the development that's attractive to developers to redo those blocks will be in the east and the North Shore. And in doing that, it will actually increase the equity divide we have in our city. If you see the traditional maps of Sydney, you can literally put a diagonal section through that, whether it be health, affordable housing, education, you can see a disparity, and that disparity is continuing to grow. And the reason it's continuing to grow is because we are so focused on economic outcomes. And so I guess I wanted to say as I close this conversation today is, what can each of us do? Is it about advocacy or standing on the street protesting? Or is it actually going to the heart of our system, thank you, and actually thinking about how we can change the conversation? Does it rest with the state government, or does it actually rest now with the federal government? Does it actually rest with Malcolm Turnbull in terms of his Better Cities plans, where we haven't even considered the conversation about what our population growth is for Australia? And so are we actually missing the fundamental conversation that's actually setting the debate, that's rolling out right through in terms of New South Wales planning changes? Thank you.